go. There's like no good sports on tonight either. I don't think. I mean, because the Blues are so terrible. I don't watch hockey anymore. They're depressing.
You're talking to Montreal Canadiens fans. I hear you.
Hey, when I used to play roller hockey a ton, and our uniforms were the St. Louis Citadel, and we had the Canadiens uniforms. You should see them; they're awesome. We just modified the Canadian uniform to be an arch, but we had the Canadian uniform. We just had an arch instead of the Canadian logo.
I will say, growing up, I was an Adam Oates fan.
Nice, yes. I was a Brett Hull fan.
I mean, I was always like the setup guy. So he was always the setup guy. So
I was a winger.
I liked him.
As a forward, yeah, exactly. Pronger too. I mean, I like to play a little dirty. I mean, that's why my front teeth.
I mean, I don't think you can mention it without talk about Cujo at this point.
Oh my gosh, yes, he has a podcast now. Actually,
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I saw that the other day on social media. I'm like, he's got a podcast. Great,
interesting. Yeah,
goalie. A lot of my friends were goalies, and I'm like, a goalie with a podcast? That's not a good idea.
They're an odd duck to begin with. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, you don't want to put a microphone in front of a goalie's face.
No, absolutely not.
There's a reason they're back there with the mask on.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's move. Yeah, my dad got to hang out with Pronger a couple times because my dad does every once in a while do the radio for the NHL because like in the NHL because my dad does radio for the Rams.
Yep.
And in the NHL, the away team doesn't travel a radio engineer. They just hire
locally.
Speaking of, that's my dad. I'll call him back. I forgot to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. He's probably watching on Facebook. I'll call you back. But so they don't travel a radio engineer. They just hire somebody that's a radio engineer in the town. So he does like when the Seattle Kraken come to St. Louis, he does their games.
Nice.
Like when they play the Blues. But yeah, he's met Pronger a couple times. One time he sent me a picture. He's like, guess who I'm hanging out with? I'm like, oh my God, that's Pronger. Oh, you're kidding me. I love Pronger.
Yeah.
Dude, I was like, be careful though. He's mean. He'll carve you up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. God. I feel like I could talk hockey with you for a while. So
call my dad back. He does that to me every time I go on the air. He works in radio and he knows.
He knows.
Why would you call when I'm on the air? Anyway. Okay, so this could be 2806. We get to talk some Polynesian, some Disney Wish. This could get me excited for my cruise in less than weeks. Scott's on his cruise right now, killing me with all his pictures.
I saw that. That looks pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'm about to block him. Dude, it's freezing here, and he's sending me pictures of him sitting in the pool and eating Palo brunch. I love the guy, but I'm like, dude, I'm so busy today.
Yeah, took Emily for the first time?
Yeah, I know. It's what we talked about at dinner tonight, Pam.
Nice.
Oh my gosh, you're living the life. No,
seriously.
I'm so happy for it, bro. I was like, oh my God, today was so busy. And I'm like, oh, he's just living the life.
You're almost there.
I want to be with Scott.
You're almost there.
Close. Okay, here we go. 2806. Welcome to episode 2806 of the Be Our Guest Walt Disney World Trip Planning Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Rallman from BeOurGuestPodcast.com and one of the senior agents over at the Magic for Less Travel. Happy Monday to you. Happy Cyber Monday. I guess every day here on the podcast is Cyber Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Thursday, Sunday, whatever, because, I mean, you're listening through a tech device. Get out there and get those good deals, though. Hey, remember, shameless plug, if you're going to do that online shopping, use our affiliate link over on Amazon, beourguestpodcast.com/Amazon. It supports the show. Super simple. There you go. We're done. We're going to have a good time today talking Disney. This is a good show. Remember back in the day when there used to be like a land and sea package that Disney offered? That's what we're giving you today is our Cyber Monday deal. We're going to talk a little Walt Disney World, a little Disney Wish, and a lot of fun memories. This is what it's all about. And we're heading up north. We're going to talk a little USA, a little Canada. Love this stuff with our good friend, Frank. Frank, happy Monday. What's going on? Thanks for joining us.
Happy Monday, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are things up in Canada this time of year?
They're good. It's wintry mix. You got some snow, got some rain. Not quite sure which way to go at this point. So getting ready for the holidays. I know it's Thanksgiving here, or the holidays back south, so to speak. But yeah, I hope everyone had a great holiday. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving, and hope everyone got the deals that they're looking for.
I believe we had a wintry mix here in the Midwest this past weekend. Now, of course, we record this a little bit ahead of time, but I think it was a big mess here in the Midwest. So maybe digging out from the slush and the goo. I don't know. Came in a little bit early. So I enjoy it because, over that, because we had Thanksgiving here in the States, you get that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday long weekend putting up. We're a family that we have senses. We do not put up the tree till after Thanksgiving. So that happened on Friday. So that is a good time. If there's a little if snowflakes flying, it's kind of cold. Good time to do that. Watch some football. So, it's good stay inside weather because it is chilly here now, finally.
For sure. No, that's great. It's great weather. Just kind of hang out and post-turkey tryptophan action and just hanging out on the couch.
Good stuff. All right. So let me ask you about your, because we talked in the pre-show a little bit. You spent some time in Maine. Now you're back up in Ottawa. Tell us a little bit about your town. Like what you're up there in Ottawa. Like what would something we'd like to know about your town? What's your area you're living in known for? Tell us about that.
So City of Ottawa is actually the capital of Canada. So it's the US, the Canadian equivalent to Washington, D.C. We have the Parliament. It's a very historic town, a very historic city, huge city, over 1 million people, so forth. So it's a beautiful city. It has tons to offer. I think the biggest thing that I really enjoy most from the city that really is kind of known for is the largest outdoor skating rink in the world where you can actually skate something. I think the skating area is something like almost 10 miles from end to end that you can actually skate. So really enjoy that during the winter, and it's a great area during the summer, and they have the Tulip Festival. So it's a really beautiful city that has like so much to offer.
And Ottawa's featured in Canada over in the Canada Pavilion. Well, at least it was in the original, right? I mean, there was because this is a city that has the French heritage, right?
It's got some, yes. It's a very bilingual. It's officially a bilingual city.
Very cool. Yeah, I'd love to get up there and see that because it's beautiful. I think even part of the pavilion looking like Ottawa. Is that right?
Yeah, there's the what they call the Chateau Laurier is look up there, but I mean that's also reminiscent of Quebec. We have a Chateau Laurier hotel that overlooks the canal and the Parliaments as well. So it's a little bit reminiscent of that. And if nothing else, we do have the drink over there.
I gotta get up there. One of my dreams. Like I used to play a lot of hockey back in the day when I still had knees that could handle it, and I was a little bit younger, but I always, because I had a couple of guys that I used to play hockey with that were from Canada, but had come down to the States, and I don't know how they ended up in Missouri, but here they were. And they would always tell their stories, of growing up in Canada, playing pond hockey and so forth. And I always told myself, man, someday I just want to be able to go to Canada, some random town in Alberta or, so just somewhere, it didn't matter, somewhere in Canada, some small town, and just play like on a Saturday night, like just bar hockey league like game, just a pickup hockey or pond hockey somewhere, and just have a game or two. I think that would be just.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way to do it. I mean, growing up, I mean, that was basically, I had a job during the winter that was a quote, rink attendant, which basically meant that all I had to do is make sure no one died during when we were playing hockey, and I basically just played hockey from like 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. And at 7 p.m. I'd go over to my house and we'd watch, Hockey Night in Canada. We'd watch the 7 to 10 o'clock game, order pizza. And then watch the West Coast game from 10 to 1 and like start the whole thing over on Sunday. It was great.
I did the same thing. I had DirecTV just for that reason. I got Hockey Night in Canada with the center ice package. I watched Don Cherry and just watched the 2 games. Watch the first game, then the West Coast game. Usually it was the Canucks. I ended up watching. It was always great.
The Canucks are the Battle of Alberta. You had the Oilers going on. You had Calgary when they were pretty good powerhouse back in the day.
Yeah. Okay. Well, gotta get into Disney. People are like, quit talking sports, but I can't help it. It's in my blood. So let's talk about your trip. How about your Disney fandom though? Where does that come from? Is it a lifelong thing? Is it something more recent? Where's that start for you?
So, I mean, I've always been a Disney fan. I've always loved the movies. Always watched, I was always a big fan of Sunday night Disney World, Wild World of Disney and that kind of stuff. So I always kind of grew in some ways and just loved the movies, loved the characters. And as an adult, I actually met my wife while she was working on a national tour of Beauty and the Beast. She was the props master for the tour, so we met while she was on the road, and I got hired as a local stagehand for the show for the day, and we stayed in touch. And well, long story short, that was 30 years ago, and we've been together ever since at this point. So while being together, our fandom just kind of grew and grew and grew to the point where we actually honeymooned at Disney, and it felt like we were getting more and more involved with Disney and just loved Disney more and more, to the point where when we had a daughter, we eventually, surprised her with a trip. And that was just an absolutely amazing trip where we absolutely surprised her literally at the airport, where she thought we were going to some boring conference, and just surprised her at the airport with like a trip to Disney. It was amazing. So that fandom really has kind of taken off, obviously, with since our daughter and that kind of thing. So it just seems to grow and grow and grow, and to the point where now I just can't seem to get enough. And here I am talking on one of your podcasts.
Couple notes here. Now, you gave me some notes, but I haven't looked deeply into this, like, because I read them yesterday, and I don't remember stuff like longer than 5 minutes, kind of like Dory. But first of all, that's awesome that you met like that. That's such I love how people meet like that kind of stuff. That, like, fate. It's kind of fate. It's awesome too that, I mean, you met on the Beauty and the Beast connection, and that we're at the Be Our Guest podcast. Like, you were meant to be on this show. Like,
exactly.
That's, and if your daughter's name isn't Belle, I don't know what your daughter's name is, but I mean, missed opportunity.
Strangely enough, it's actually the nickname I have for my wife, so it works out well.
Okay, I was gonna say it has to be like, I don't know, because you don't want to go with Mrs. Potts. Like, that would be a terrible name for a kid going through middle school.
It's certainly not Chip either.
Yeah, exactly, not Chip either. Yeah, I'm just saying, yeah, Mrs. Potts would be worse. No, I'm just kidding you. Okay, so let's talk about this trip. What's the genesis of this trip we're going to talk about tonight? Because, man, I love this story. This sounds awesome.
So my daughter last year was a senior in high school, and she kept talking to me, well, I really want to do a big trip for my, graduation present. So, of course, she comes to me, is like, I'd love to do like a 10-day cruise in Italy, and I wanted to go to, Istanbul, and I want to go travel.
Those daughters too. Okay, good. It's not just my kid. Okay.
No, it's certainly not just your kid. I want to go to Ireland for 10 days, or whatever it was. And I'm like, trying to wrangle that in a little bit. So I said, all right, well, we'll see what we can do, and came up with some options. And then I said, all right, well, we could, we haven't done a Disney cruise, and I know we would always love doing that. So for Christmas, I ended up surprising her specifically, I should say, with a Disney cruise. So I had put a small tin in her stocking, and when she unwrapped it, she opened it up, and it was a small puzzle. And when I told her she should probably put the puzzle together. And when she put the puzzle together, it was the front of a cruise ship, and it says, you're going on a Disney cruise. And my wife is looking at me like side eyes, like, wait, what's happening? It's like, yep, we're going on a Disney cruise in August. So we're going for a quick trip, so to speak. And while we're at it, because I know from all, listening to you guys saying, it's never long enough on the cruise, I decided to extend a little bit more. So we decided to do a land and sea. So I said, hey, by the way, we're doing a land and sea, but I'm not telling you where we're going before the cruise. We know we're going down the cruise. We're going to go with some friends, but before the cruise is going to be us. And I'm not telling you where we're going until we show up that day.
I love that, because you get a little bit of what you get, but you get surprise going to be in there too, kind of a little yin and yang there. I love this idea. Now, I'm sensing something there that's a little bit dangerous, though. Like, you book this cruise without spousal approval here. Like, the danger that's kind of going into the danger zone.
I agree. It's the old adage of like, ask for forgiveness rather than permission.
Absolutely. I mean, it's it's a Disney cruise. Like, I mean, nobody can be mad at that. But I love.
That was my thought too.
Exactly. I mean, you're gonna have a great time. But I mean, was the surprise on your wife's face was probably at first kind of shocking, then surprise, I would imagine.
Yeah, she was definitely a little bit taken back, where she wasn't quite know how to answer out, or she didn't know if she was supposed to be excited or happy or concerned of exactly how much money we just spent. Because at that point she had no idea about specifics, so she had no idea what we're going and where we're going. So I kind of took a leap of faith, so to speak, and it worked out in my favor.
But I think, and you can probably back me up on this, that when your kids get to be that age, like when they're seniors in high school, they're the time is of the essence to do things like this, right? They're going to go off to university, they're going to go off to college, and you just, when they're like in, fifth grade, sixth grade, and, middle school, like you have a buffer of time to take vacations. Like, we can do this year, or we can do this next year, or we can do this maybe in a few years. But then once they get to be, juniors or seniors in high school, like, you have to pull the cord, take the trip, because once they go off to college, it's all bets are off on these trips. Of course, you will travel as a family, but it's just the opportunities are not there. They're not as frequent, I think.
Well, exactly, and that was just kind of my thought, saying, I might as well go out with, kind of like this is potentially going to be one of our last trips together for a while. So I want to make it something special and something memorable that we'd really all enjoy, and really something that she wanted to do as well. I didn't want to just book another quote, boring Disney vacation that we've done about hundreds of times already. I want to make sure that was something that she really had on her list, and a cruise really was on her list. So I figured that kind of checked all the boxes.
Awesome. So how'd you guys prepare for the cruise? So obviously it was everybody's first experience with cruise line.
Yeah, so it was our first experience with cruise, and so basically what we ended up doing is we ended up basically just loading up YouTube, and we just kept watching like tons of YouTube videos and watching families and travel and that kind of stuff, and really focused on the Wish because obviously that was where we are going, and we had a general idea of what it was going to be like, and we said, all right, well we're gonna watch everything, but the only thing I didn't really watch was any kind of like I guess point of view videos of the aqueduct because I kind of wanted to keep that a secret. I know they had some animation inside the tube and that kind of stuff. That's all. I wanted to keep that a little bit of a surprise. But the rest of the ship, we had a pretty good idea. Like we walked on the ship, we had a pretty good idea of the layout just because of how much time we'd spent watching walkthroughs and watching, families and trips and so forth. So it was surreal to see it, having watched it for 100 times on TV. And then just to walk on a ship at, in the main ballroom was just absolutely amazing. And I can only imagine what my face looked like when I saw the ship for the first time.
It's kind of like because I have the same thing. Like I was like, do I stay spoiler free or do I watch a ton of videos? Because like for the Magic, I'd sailed the Magic in '98, like when the cruise line launched, but I hadn't sailed it again until last summer. And I was like, do I wait? Because it's a different ship at this point. It's gone through dry dock a few times, so many different things. But I watched every video that was available on YouTube before we went on it again, and it was still a great experience when I went on. Like I was still surprised with some things, and what it did for me, it made the whole experience like 6 months longer because every day I was like, why seeing if some vlogger had just gone on another sailing and posted something. And I got a kick out of enjoying the whole experience leading up to the cruise because the cruise, and I'm sure you'll say this, goes so fast. Like time accelerates so quickly on those ships that I got to have the excitement every day for 6 months before the cruise, watching videos. And then every night, if there was a good video, like over dinner, I'd show a section to Pam, over Mexican dinner, and we'd talk about, oh, check this part of the ship out. I think we'll enjoy this. We'd have conversations, even if we didn't do it when we actually got on the ship, we'd say, we need to try this. We need to make sure we go to Cove Cafe and maybe try this or that, or, that kind of stuff. Did you guys kind of have that kind of stuff like pre-trip?
I was going to say it was exactly what we did too. Is like, oh, I think that'd be fun. Or like, I'm not sure about that one. The only thing we knew that we didn't want to do is said, well, this is our first cruise and we kind of want to experience as much as we can. So the only thing we didn't do is we didn't do the Apollo or like, the signature meals and that kind of stuff. We decided like, all right, we're just going to spend our time actually experiencing the ship and experiencing the shows and seeing more of the ship. And I figured, you know what, maybe on a subsequent cruise when it's maybe just her and I, we can, splurge on Apollo or something like that. But for now, we're just going to just try and enjoy as much of the ship as possible. The only problem I ran into is that I also wanted to watch, I was excited because I wanted to try to extend the trip as much as possible, like you were saying, but I also wanted to watch videos on the Polynesian, but I couldn't because they had no idea that's where we're going. So I actually had to like watch on my phone or something like that on my own. So they didn't realize because, all of a sudden when they pull it up on YouTube TV on the TV, they're like, "Whoa, why'd you do a search on the Polynesian?" They're like, I don't know. So it worked out well that way.
That's true. That is, you gotta be careful there because the other part is a secret. Okay, so getting down there from where you guys flew out of Rochester, I believe, or no, Providence. Was getting down any kind of problem and getting to the port? Any stories there for folks that are traveling here soon?
No, I mean, so we couldn't find a direct flight from Maine, and we figured it was such a short time window of like time to really spend at the Polynesian. We decided that we wanted to see if we could try to maximize our time as much as possible at the Polynesian. So, kind of doing a deep dive on all the local flights around the area. I was able to find a local flight, a direct flight out of Providence to Orlando that had us landing in Orlando around 9 a.m. I figured that's perfect because it felt like it's almost like a bonus day. So we landed in Orlando at 9 a.m. And, we're all excited. And, first time landing and flying into that new terminal. Or is it? I think it's,
tell us that because I've never seen. I've seen it on social media, but I want to go to that. I'm always Southwest, so I always get the old.
Yeah, it was our first time flying it with JetBlue, and like that terminal is absolutely incredible. It's so open, so new. It was quite the experience. And I told them that we still had the surprise of like flying in, basically going to the Polynesian. They had no idea, but I still had a couple, surprises lined up in my sleeve at that point. So I was more excited about, kind of like being able to finally able to like reveal these, these secrets and these, hidden away gems I'd kind of planned for like a couple months now. So it was nice to be able to finally have that reveal.
You're like David Copperfield here with all these surprises, because the first one actually happens at MCO. So fill us in on how you start, because it's like an evolution of surprises as the morning unfolds. So go ahead.
Right. So we got, we're walking off into the terminal, and usually we're very much used to the terminal where we usually get off to, like you said, the Southwest. You come down the main hallway, you got the food court hub, you're looking at the carpet, you see the carpet and you're like, oh my God, there's like a vacation. You go through the little monorail thing, it's like the pre-monorail ride and that kind of thing. And you go down the escalator, and it's like very familiar to us, but this is all, completely new. We're going through new walkways and there's no carpet. And we finally get to like the baggage area, and sure enough, there's a cast member with our name. It's like, hey guys, look over there. And I had actually, they had gotten us a minivan to take us to the resort. And my daughter immediately goes into questioning mode. It's like, hey, you know where you're taking us. Where are we going? And the cast member was under strict orders not to say anything until we finally got there. So it worked out really well.
The cast member knew not to say. So
yeah, no, I had already had conversations with him beforehand. So it's like I was trying to line up everything so there's no fall through the cracks. And we got on, we get on the minivan, and again, my wife's giving me the side eye because again, I had not officially approved any of this by her at this point, especially with what
Frank, you're living dangerously. I love the way you roll, but it's scaring me to death. But go ahead.
So we're getting you leave the MCO area and getting close to Disney and go through the arches. And as soon as we go through, under the big sign, now the guests are starting to come out. It's like, oh well, we passed this resort, so I guess we're not going there. And all of a sudden, we started realizing that we're following, one of the monorail lines. And all of a sudden, my wife's looking at me like, "You better not have gotten us to the Grand Floridian at this point." Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I just kept silent the whole time. And finally pulled into the Polynesian, and my wife and daughter actually just absolutely just ecstatic. It's like, oh, they couldn't believe what we're doing. And then when we got into the lobby, I said, well, we could check in here, or we could probably check out back, at the club level area. And again, wife's like, you did what now? And so sure enough, I'd surprised them with yet another, club level stay at that point. So it was shock initially, but forgiven quickly. So it worked out well.
Again, you got to live life. You got to take a chance. You got to splurge sometimes. And this is a trip you're going to remember forever. So club level stay, pre-cruise at the Polynesian, something. Now you have been looking forward to this forever. You've been looking, I'm sure, like again, looky looing at all the videos and all the amenities you're going to get experience that they had not. So this is like shock and awe for them. So tell us about the stay. I mean, did it live up to your expectations? And obviously they didn't have any because they weren't looking forward to this, but they had no idea what was coming. What was the stay? Because I mean, Polynesian's one of the few places I haven't spent a lot of time at. I think I've stayed there one night, like before a cruise way years ago. What were your thoughts about it?
It was absolutely amazing. It was a first for me because I'm a big, rope drop to, park close, final kiss guy, because I just want to run all day and I want to do my 30,000 steps all day. And I just want to run and do everything and see everything and say hi to everybody and that kind of thing. And I just want to run all day. And we had made the decision, or I guess I had made the decision that at that point we had spent quite a bit enough of money. So we're like, we're just going to relax. We're just going to just completely like try to change gear and switch gears. And we're not going to do a single park day. We're going to enjoy the resort. We spent, some money on this resort. So we're just going to hang out here. We're going to enjoy the resort. I had booked them, a girls' massage one day so that they were able to kind of relax. I was excited about checking out the new DVC area, the new DVC with the Wailulu, I think it's called, the new Wailulu bar, grill, whatever it's called.
Thank you for not making me say it. Thank
you. Which was absolutely it's such an amazing spot. It's an open area, water views, just absolutely incredible. Just cannot say enough good things about that whole resort area. The new area with the Moana, like the kids pool where the Moana statue is. Such an incredible area, and just that whole resort is just exudes relaxation and just unwinding and slowing down. And that's really what we did. We only had 2.5 days there, and we made as much time as possible from there. Enjoying it as much as possible is great.
And you guys have good weather though. I mean, because to enjoy the pool and the amenities and stuff. Because you get August, right? I mean, was it super hot or was
It
it?
was it was really hot. The only time where we thought we were gonna have issues, which ended up being like super cool, is one of the things on my bucket list was I wanted to watch the fireworks from the Polynesian beach in the chairs. That was like one of my bucket list items. So we got there nice and early, and we're seeing all this lightning off in the storm in the horizon, but no rain, no wind, no thunder. All we were seeing was just like intermittent, lightning. So it ended up being like a really cool light show for like a half hour, where all it was only lightning and like no noise, no rain. I forget what there. I guess there's a meteorological like phenomenon for that type thing where they call it something like that. But it was just incredible watching just the lightning show prior to the fireworks, and then the fireworks went off, and that was just absolutely an incredible moment as well.
I love that. I've always said like one of the reasons I would like to move to Florida is because of the dynamic weather. Because I'm a weather nut. Like we are supposed to get some snow and freezing rain stuff. Like I love it. Like that's why I like living in the Midwest. We get it all. Like except for hurricanes. But and like I was at Walt Disney World one time and there was a hurricane. We stayed like for Hurricane Charlie. Like we were at Pop Century. I mean, I was kind of geeked out over it. I mean, I'm a weather nut, so yeah, I love that kind of stuff. Now, I'm living dangerously because I'm an emotional dude. And this story that you put in here about Ohana, and because it's gonna hit a little close to home. I got a girl that's gonna be, she's gonna be 18. Holy cow, in a month. And so she's graduating this year, and almost reading the story got to me. So tell the story. I mean, and there's a lot of us that listen to this show that are in this Deanna, I know, down in Texas. A lot of us in this tread dangerously. Listen to the next 2 minutes at your own peril. Folks that are going to become empty nesters here soon. Go ahead.
No, I had a funny feeling that I was going to hit home for you as well. But on our last night, we had made reservations for the Ohana dinner. We figured, all right, we're going to go out in style and that kind of stuff for the last dinner. So we got to the podium, and we started talking to the cast member that was there. We got there a little bit early for a reservation, and turns out that the cast member was from Ottawa. So we started talking to her, and just, it was just super easy going and like super great cast member that was incredible and just telling stories. And we ended up chatting with her for like a good 10-15 minutes. And at one point, she's like, oh, by the way, your reservation's ready. It's like, hey, do you think if we asked really nicely, we could get, a table by the window? And she's like, oh, no, I already took care of that. You guys are pretty cool. I already took care of that for you. So it was like, oh, this is going to be a great dinner. So, and in fact, it was my first time having dinner at Ohana. So, and to have a table right on the window was incredible. And I knew this was, going to be a special trip for us, and it was going to be, potentially a last trip that we're going to be doing together. And I'm just kind of enjoying the moment. And, at one point the music hits, and you're listening to music, and you're hearing all the, the really cool music, and you're watching this fireworks. And at one point I look over, and sure enough, my wife is crying. I'm like, oh, yeah. It's like I was wrong. I was like, what's going on? Like, I thought something, I thought she was mad at me. What's going on? And she leans over and she's like, this is probably one of our last trips together. Our girl's off to college, university in 2 weeks. And, who knows when the last time we're going to have one of these trips. And then, I immediately turn away. I was like, I got something over here. I got to look over. And of course, I get all emotional at the same time. He's like, God, I wish you hadn't said that. But at the same time, it's the reason why we made this trip. It was the reason we could actually celebrate. And it was the reason why, even though we were cruising with friends, I wanted to have kind of like a special trip where it was just this section of the trip was just us, and we could actually just enjoy each other and just spend some quality time, just the three of us enjoy, so like hopefully some special moments. And that certainly is something I'm going to remember for a long time.
That's why I love this, that we get to have this podcast. I love being able to share small stories like that, because that's why we go to Walt Disney World. That's why we go to Disneyland. That's why we take the trips. That's why we go on these cruises, to make these memories with people we love. And I appreciate you sharing that with us, Frank, because that is exactly it. I mean, but I'm telling you what, man, that Happily Ever After soundtrack, that thing is dangerous. Dude, you can't be in a situation like that where your kid's getting ready to go off to college and then they pipe in Happily Ever After. Dude, that's too much.
Oh, I 100% agree. Like I said, it's an emotional music to begin with, because, it's, really is kind of my happy place. And, I've got I've worked that's relatively stressful. So like being able to go there is like really unwinding on, disconnecting and so forth. It's nice having that kind of escape, and then you throw in the family dynamics and the daughter going off to university in a couple of weeks. It all kind of hit home in full circle that we met years ago, decades ago, we met on a Beauty and the Beast theater show, and all of a sudden now we're sending off our daughter to university while we're sitting having dinner in Ohana. It's just like such a surreal moment in some ways.
That's something. All right, so because I want to make sure we get this all in. We got time, and we're gonna get the whole thing in here. But I want to talk about the cruise so we can get all of your thoughts there. So you go from the Polynesian over to the Wish. So how'd you guys get from the Poly to the cruise? And then first impressions of, I love when you kind of go over the hills there as you go across the causeway, and the first time you see the two stacks, and the excitement of just that hour-long build getting towards Port Canaveral. So tell us about that anticipation that morning.
That was amazing. It was, so we had friends that were flying in from Canada, but they didn't have the time off, and they didn't have the resources to kind of make it down to the Polynesian. So they actually flew in and stayed at the hotel at MCO. So they said, all right, well, we want to go hang out with them. So the night before the cruise, we packed up our room at the Polynesian, which was also surreal, because usually when you pack up and you're booking out of your resort, you're all sad and that kind of stuff. But I was actually pretty excited to be leaving the resort, which was kind of a weird feeling at the same time. But we made it down to the Orlando airport and checked in at the hotel as well, and met up with them, enjoyed the pool. And it was it's a great convenient resort. Like, if anyone's cruising or going out there, cannot recommend staying there if you're looking for the night before, because as you have said multiple times, make sure you get there the night before. Don't let it to chance.
100%.
Don't leave it to chance. Get there the night before. You take all that stress out. And in the morning of the cruise, it could not have been easier. It was just such an incredible process. There's two cruise ships leaving that morning, so it was a fairly busy lobby. But we got down there a little early, and they said, "Yeah, come on in." And we went through security, went through boarding, the whole 9 yards. Got a great boarding time. I forget exactly what we got, but I think it was like maybe 11 o'clock or something like that. We got like an incredible boarding time, and got on the bus. And like, one of my big things, like, it's not going to make or break my trip, but like, one of the things I'm really hoping for is, like, again, another bucket list moment was I wanted to be on one of those Disney Cruise Line buses. I didn't want to one of those like generic Academy buses. I was kind of hoping for the Disney Cruise Line bus, right?
I love that, Frank. You're a good friend. I'm the same way, because you know what, they're both going to get me there. But if an Academy one or whatever, I always call them the Epcot buses, because I always think of Scott when they pull up. They say like Epcot. I don't know what they say. Something looks like Epcot.
Yeah, right.
They say it doesn't say Epcot either. It says something like I don't know what it says, but it looks like Epcot or Epcot. But they pull up there for the races. But yeah, I always wanted Disney Cruise Line bus. Once I'm on the inside, you can't tell. But I'm with you though.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, I knew it wasn't going to make or break, and it was going to do the exact same thing as any other bus. But I was like, in my mind, I was like, I really want a Disney Cruise Line bus. And when they brought us down in the elevator, and I got out, and sure enough, I saw a Disney Cruise Line bus. I was excited. I was like, yes, finally. So got on the bus, got the back of the bus, and got to watch the video. And at that point, I'm like head on a swivel. I'm just looking everywhere. I just didn't know what to look at, where to look at. And excuse me. And then when you said, you come over that crest and you see the ships, and you've seen like hundreds of videos and hundreds of pictures, and it doesn't do justice. It's like, these ships are huge, but just seeing them in person is just surreal in so many ways, where you don't realize exactly, like, these things are ginormous, and it's just awestruck, to see how big they are. And like, oh my God, I'm going to be spending like the next several days on one of these things. It's going to be incredible. I cannot wait. And then just, the excitement builds, because you get into the terminal, and you get into the lobby, and you check in, and now you're waiting around. You're just kind of chomping at the bit to get on. You cannot wait. Just the excitement builds. I'm looking around, and I can't, I'm like, the 6-year-old kid. I can't sit still at this point, because I've been dreaming about this moment for like 8 months at this point. It's just been absolutely insane, and cannot wait to just get on board at that point.
I can't imagine. You got to be, because I'm like, I've sailed quite a few times, and like every time when I'm sitting in that the terminal building, like, I'm just like, oh, Like, how long is it going to be till they start calling boarding groups? I mean, like, I've already taken a picture with Mickey. I've already looked at the model. I've already connected to the cruise line Wi-Fi. I've already liked everything I want to do for the next 5 days. Okay. Like, if they not clean the ship, and I know they're doing the best they can. They're flipping the ship. It's amazing they can flip the ship that fast. It's unbelievable that they can do that. But I just want to get on. Like, I'm not really, I tell myself I'm hungry. I probably just ate breakfast 2 hours before, but I just want to get on there, ride the aqueduct. I just want to walk around and see the ship. I just want to be on the ship because I'm so excited. I just want to be in there. But what did you, once they started calling boarding groups and you got to walk through the big ears, first impressions, you get on, what do you do first?
It was absolutely, you walk on, and initially I've always said, like, all right, well, it's kind of weird having you, call your name when you first walk on a ship, the cast members like, welcome, whatever family. And it's like, I always thought it was kind of weird, but then when it happens to you, it's like, you kind of like get all giddy and that kind of stuff. Like, oh my God. You get in the main ballroom and you're just like, I don't know where to go. But, we pretty much knew exactly what we were going to do. So I think we made it to, I think it was a deck 7 where they have the pool. No, I forget which deck it is. I'm sorry. Where they have the pool and the buffet and the barbecue. So we basically beelined it up there. And first thing I did is I went to get changed, and I basically I went to do the aqueduct. I said, I'm going to do the aqueduct before everyone gets out there. Something I've been chomping at the bit. I have not watched a single video of this thing, so I really want to get on this thing and just have at it. And it was such a fun ride. Short, but really, really fun. Really enjoyed it. And as soon as I came off, joined everyone else and, just had at it with the barbecue and the ice cream, and just really enjoyed the amount of food that was available, and the options that were available to us was incredible. I was just blown away by not just the amount of food, but the quality of food as well that was just readily available. And this is like, I kept saying, it's like, well, if this is the food that's, the kind of food that we have like at a buffet out on a main deck, I can only imagine the type of food we're going to have on these, on our dining and at the Palo and so forth and so forth. It was just, my head was spinning at that point, just, thinking of all the possibilities of what was going to be happening for the next several days.
Yeah, it's exciting of that sail away time. I mean, the first day's hectic, right? You get on, you're kind of waiting for your luggage to show up at your stateroom, and the stateroom's not ready, just like 1:30 or so. So you're kind of homeless there for like the first hour or so. You're just kind of wandering around like, oh, what we're gonna do. But you took advantage. Like, that's a great time to do the aqueduct. Pack your trunks and your carry-on, and so you can do that. I love the tacos. You probably had the St. Louis style ribs there up there, the barbecue. Oh, so good. I can't wait because this time next week I'll be on the Destiny and I'll be taking care of all that stuff. I cannot wait. Yeah. So let's talk real quickly about your stateroom. You had a stateroom with a veranda. So did that work out well for you guys?
I pretty much knew I was going to do. I was living dangerously at that point. I knew too, getting a veranda, because I knew.
Well, you can't go. You can never go back.
That's just it. Which is the honeymoon. Yeah. Which is the reason why I'll never go concierge, because if I go concierge, I'm never gonna be able to downgrade from there. So I'm like, I'm never doing that. I'm not taking that step. I'm not risking that. So I'm just gonna stay veranda and call it good. But we had a veranda. We had done the sail away party. Just absolutely got loved. I was just that was one of my other things that I was just looking for, is hearing the horns sound right at the end when they do the countdown at the sail away party, listening to the horns blow. And then you get to your veranda, you get to your stateroom, you're hanging out with your friends and family, and you're actually watching the ship, leave port and, go into the open water. And it's just at that point, like, it feels literally like everything is just being left behind. We're like, I'm going to open water. My phone's on airplane mode. I just do not care for the next 4 days.
That is the best. I do love putting that thing on. I'm gone. Please don't. You can't get a hold of me.
Exactly. No, it was such a great moment, and just being able to enjoy that from our veranda, and especially the fact that you're seeing all the people that are lined up on the shore, and everyone's waving at you, and somehow you're like, back of your mind, you're thinking suckers because you're going on the cruise and they're watching you leave. It was such an amazing feeling, and just to be there with friends and family was so incredible.
I do love waving to everybody at Jetty Park there as you're pulling out. Like, oh, man, and it's so cool that they're so nice to wave to you. I don't know who they are, but they're waving to us, and I'm like, well, see you later. We're going on a cruise. I mean, you're still in Florida at a park. You're doing not too bad. You're not at work. You're at the beach. I mean, you're still 75% of the way there, but I'm leaving. I'm out of here. I'll see you later. Exactly. All right. So it's a pretty good deal for both sides. Now, let me ask you, because I want to talk about the dining and the shows. But before that, the thing I do enjoy probably the most about cruising is like the stuff you mentioned, like the classes, the tastings, the venues like Keg and Compass and stuff like that. So what did you enjoy the most about those smaller like classes and trivias and stuff like that? What memories do you have about those kind of things?
We just at the point when we first were on the looking and researching the ship, we just didn't know what we were going to really enjoy, and it felt like we just kind of experienced it all. And after a while, we started realizing we're not going to be able to see it all because there's so many, there's so many trivias and so many contests and so many activities and that kind of thing. So we're like, all right, well, we'll just try to space it out as best we can, and we'll get to what we can get to. And after that, if we don't make it, we'll just have to, quote unquote, unfortunately, book another cruise and do more of the activities at that point. Exactly. So we partook in a couple of activities. We did the champagne tasting, which was really interesting. That was great cast member. I forget the gentleman's name, but just absolutely really informative and just great. Just all the stuff I had no idea about. So that was actually on our embarkation day, and had a great time with that. We also did the mixology class, which was another fun class, which was, highly recommend. I know it sells out quickly, but we booked it relatively quickly, soon, and that worked out really well. It was our first time cruising, so we figured we didn't think we were gonna get in because we figured with all the, we're the last of the pick for everything at that point, but we were still pretty excited. We're at that point, we're just saying, whatever we can get, and it worked out really well. And we toured a lot of the ship. We just kind of walked around where we'd hearted, like you said, we'd hearted a bunch of activities. So once in a while we get like, oh, you have trivia starting up, or you have, music, or, this show's coming up and that kind of thing. And we just kind of like we walked around and just ended like just jumping into things. And we loved the Keg and Compass. The Keg and Compass was fantastic. I think that's probably one of our favorite hangouts. Just the nautical theme, the wood theme, the deep, the dark woods. The nod to, I think there's a couple of nods to not Akershus, but to oh shoot, the ride that Frozen replaced.
Maelstrom.
Maelstrom, sorry, yes, sorry, Matterhorn, sorry. Yeah, so there's some old school nods and that kind of stuff. And I'm kind of like a Disney geek at the same time, so like that's the kind of stuff, like the hidden Mickeys and the hidden gems and like the subtle nods to yesteryears and that kind of, like, that's the stuff I really kind of geek out on. So I really appreciate that. We happened to walk into like a sports trivia that was going on there. We ended up winning as well, so that was the extra bonus. So I was pretty.
You walked in and you walked out a champ. That's
So I mean, I wore that. They say it's just a little plastic medal, but man, I wore that thing proudly all day. So I was excited having that thing with me. I got absolutely humiliated at a couple, name that tune stuff and 80s music and 70s. I get absolutely humbled at that thing. I thought I was going to do well, and like I didn't finish anywhere near as well as I thought I was going to be. So really loved the shows. The shows were incredible. Just the shows, the welcome shows. I think it was the Aladdin show. I think it was what as well. All those were just absolutely incredible. We're just absolutely just in awe of everything in the ship, where it didn't feel like one thing was really drawing us to a certain area, but we just enjoyed the whole ship, and just the entire experience overall was just being on the ship was really what was incredible to us.
So kind of shifting gears with that though, you guys went to Castaway, you went to Nassau. Nassau, not such a big hit, but how would you think about Castaway?
Yeah, so you're right. So my wife she really wanted to do Nassau because like I've never been. I just want to say I just want to go there and say I've done it. And I said, all right, well,
that's super common. And I get off at Nassau about every third cruise, and I'm like, the ship's kind of more exciting to me.
Yeah, and that was kind of my thought. But she's like, I just want to go for an hour. And at that point, she's like, all right, if you want to go for an hour, I'm going to go for an hour. And just because my background, I said, I'm not letting you go into Nassau by yourself, even though I'm sure it's plenty safe. But I'm like, I'm not letting you go to Nassau by yourself. So I'll go to Nassau with you for an hour. We'll call it good. And that's exactly what we did. But I gotta tell you, Castaway Cay was probably our favorite day. That was basically by far our favorite day. We were really looking forward to that thing. So we got up early and we were having breakfast as we're coming in. It was really cool watching the ship, dock and coming into Castaway Cay. And we were one of the first people off the boat. And we didn't really know where to go because that's one thing we had not seen many videos on. So we just kind of followed the crowd for a little while. But we had a general idea where we wanted to go. So we got off the ship. We bought some water. We bought some drinks. And those like cooler bags that they sell right off as soon as you get off the ship. And we actually beelined it for initially. The first thing we did was we beelined it for the adult section. My daughter was old enough to be in the adult section, so the three of us said, "All right, let's just go hang out." And that water is incredible. Just that I've never been in an ocean that's warm. So to me, that was absolutely just mind blowing because I'm used to, the Atlantic Ocean and where it's pretty cold and that kind of stuff. So just being able to be in that water was incredible. And that color is just, you take pictures of the water and it just doesn't do it justice. That blue water that is incredible. And just the sand, it was just, I'm not usually the kind of guy that likes to sit around and just sit on the beach and do nothing. I have to be doing something. I want to be playing a game. I'll be running. I want to be doing cards. I want to be whatever it is. But this, I actually found myself like, I could actually just sit here and just enjoy this and just breathe for a while. It was great. So we hung out at the adult section. I told them that my other big thing that I want to do for my bucket list was the Castaway Key 5K. So I basically went back to the family section and, basically figured out exactly where I had to go. And I was underprepared for the heat.
But you did see, there's where because I saw you did this. I'm like, you didn't do it the very first thing.
Nope.
It's hot enough when you do it exactly right when you get off the ship because you want to do that sucker first.
I'll chalk that up as a rookie mistake. That's a rookie move right there. That's what that ended up being.
Doing it all day, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, that was hot, but I mean that was one of those things that's like I've done marathons in the past, but I mean that 5K that was harder, and I was pretty darn proud of that thing.
It's hot, yeah. It's like running through the jungle twice.
Oh god, but it was cool. You get the giant runway and you see the plane, and I'm sure the history of the island as well. So I'm at the same time, I'm like just kind of thinking about what this island was before it became Mickey and that kind of stuff, and it was really cool to me just to kind of wander and that kind of thing at the same time. So I was really enjoying, really, really enjoying it. And then our friends eventually joined us as well and ended up doing the water slide that's right in the ocean. I forget exactly the name of that water slide, but I mean, that thing is fast.
Plunge. Yeah, I don't even do that. I did it a couple times years and years ago. I'm retired from that thing. That thing is too much. But
that thing's intense. Yeah, I guess I didn't realize there was like a kind of like a fast side and a slow side. And my friend's daughter, she's like, "Oh, I want to go on this side." And I don't know if she was punking me or something like that. She knew what was up, but I didn't go on that thing. I flew off that thing. It was crazy, but it was like, I'm kind of glad that you didn't do this side because it was intense, but it was a lot of fun. I've never done a water slide in the middle of an ocean, that kind of stuff. And then the kids all got together and they did the feeding the stingrays, and they just absolutely loved it. It was such an incredible day. We were like one of the first people off the boat. We're basically one of the last people back on the boat. Just absolutely loved the day. It was one of those times where at that point where I was really having like buyer's remorse. I really wish we'd done like a cruise that we could done. One of those cruises where it does the lighthouse key and the Castaway Key on the same thing, because that would have absolutely been incredible. Because as soon as I left the island, I was like, I have to be back here.
But the thing is, like, there's going to be a next one. Like, there's going to be part 2 to the story, and it gives you an opportunity to like, this is a good first step, and it's kind of like my philosophy, and people do these things different ways, and my philosophy is not the right way. It's just how I see things, and I don't see things correctly. It's just how I see things. But like when it comes to running, I chose to do like the marathon standalone the first time and then do the dopey challenge because I wanted to have the experience of just running a full marathon that Sunday, that one year, and enjoy that I became a marathoner that year. And then the next year do the dopey challenge, have a full year to kind of look forward to becoming somebody who had done the dopey challenge. Right. And so like you did this cruise where you went to Castaway, you went to Nassau, but now you got to hold like for your next cruise, you could do the double, you could do Castaway and Lookout. And then, maybe after that, a 7-nighter that goes to Lookout, Castaway, and Tortola and St. Thomas. It's just, I like to make things kind of build like small steps. I'm very progressive in things like that because I think it gives you opportunity. I don't know. Like, I think when you buy like something, when you get like the big chunk right off the bat, it doesn't leave you wanting for more later. And I like to just, I don't know, maybe it's the athlete in me. I like to build through small bites kind of thing.
No, absolutely. I mean, it was one of the things where I knew we did the shorter cruise because that's what time constraints. Because my daughter had to get back into university and move in and so forth. So we kind of like a time constraint at the same time. But I knew I was going to regret not having like an actual like official real at sea day. Whereas like that's really where I'd love to have like an actual full at sea day where you can be in your stateroom or you can be on a veranda and just watch the ocean or whatever it is and just enjoy the ship for a full day where you're not docking somewhere, you're not stopping somewhere. It's a full time, but like it's our next trip is going to be it's gonna be longer because it's definitely we didn't know if we were going to like it. We weren't sure if it was going to be for us. We've had friends who have not liked cruising, so we weren't sure how we were going to respond to it. So we said, all right, we'll go small first and see if we like it. Kind of dip our toe into the cruising pool, so to speak, and if we like it, then we can move on from there. If we don't, well, it was a short cruise.
That's a good philosophy, though. I mean, because you're right, just see what it's like, and then it gives you good idea for what's moving forward. Let me ask you one other thing about the cruise. We haven't talked about the main dining rooms. Which was your favorite? Did you enjoy the Arendelle experience? Did you enjoy Animators? Which one stood out? I'm trying to think of the third one there.
So we have had debates about this as far as which one was the most, which one we enjoyed the most. We had Arendelle that was our first night. We were not sold on Arendelle because it felt like there was so much activity. We didn't know where to look and what to do and to enjoy.
Wild in there. The kids probably love it, but I thought it was
it was a lot, and especially exactly. And for our first night, at that point we'd been going for a while, so we weren't quite sure what to make of Arendelle. We had the following night we had 1923, which we really enjoyed. That was a great one. That was, I think, probably the best food we've had, on the cruise was 1923. And then we finished out at Marvel for our last night, and that was a lot of fun too. I think we come to the conclusion that our favorite food was at 1923, but our favorite atmosphere and overall experience was Marvel.
That makes sense. Yeah, I forgot Animators in on that. It's Marvel. See, Marvel's cool, but I don't understand anything going on there. That's my fault because I don't see the Marvel. I've never seen the Marvel movies, but for me as a Disney geek, and I'm not super fancy like 1923. I like that restaurant because it's got the nods to the old Disney history, and the food is stinking good in there. I mean, for me, like I don't need stuff over the top. Like, I know a lot of folks go to like Ashante and Remy and stuff. That like Palo is as fancy as I need to go, even to the fancy restaurants. Like Palo is perfect for like my wife and I. We love it. It's fancy, but like 1923 is kind of a notch below that. I think that is like really good fancy food for us.
I 100% agree. And I love the nod. I love being able to kind of look around again, the Disney geek in me, and watching some of the history and some of the not necessarily the souvenirs, but the memorabilia amongst all the restaurant was just, I love being able to do that. And he's like, it's one of the things where I was lingering. I think that's one of those times where having the late dining really helped us too, where we were able to take our time. We didn't feel like we were being rushed out of there so they could prepare for the next meal. And then, being able to linger after dinner and just kind of walk around and see all the memorabilia I think it was really nice. And I think that if we were going to do it again, I definitely think we'd be doing the late dining again.
Oh, you just reminded me we have late dining on this cruise, and that's rough for me because I eat at 4:00. That's we had it this summer, and it was okay because we did it because I want to try it, but I don't know because I know on a cruise you can eat anytime you want. But the struggle that my wife and I have is that we like the early dining because we like to get like a piece of pizza or some ice cream before bed, and with late dining, it doesn't afford you that opportunity because you just finished eating and you don't want that. Like you just, you have your late dining, you go to the adult area and watch a show or an activity, and then you just kind of sock off. Yeah, I don't know.
No, it was good. And we enjoyed being able to have the late night, the late night rummage through the pizza deck and having the late night pizza or having the late night ice cream and that kind of stuff. And they had some interesting flavors too, which I always appreciate. I think they had like a lemon blueberry one night. I think on the island they had some sort of mango action. It wasn't just straight up vanilla and chocolate, which I thought was interesting. So it was nice having, like you said, the availability pretty much anytime. And my daughter took full advantage of the quote unquote free room service the entire time, so she really enjoyed that.
We always forget to do that. I'm glad you mentioned that because
we didn't do it, but like I said, apparently my daughter did enough for all of us, so we're good.
I mean, you can get Mickey bars sent to your stateroom, chocolate chip cookies, chicken wings. It's like we always say that. That's one of those things, again, just like you mentioned, Frank, 20 minutes ago, like we talk in the pre-cruise, like before we go, we're like, okay, on this cruise, we're going to make sure that we do this. And it's always room service. And then when they boot you off the ship on debarkation morning, we're like, we didn't do room service one time this cruise either. Every time we're like, what are we doing? Like,
yeah, there's definitely some room where we kept, we got off and on our flight back, it's like, oh, we forgot to do this, forgot to do that. But because we didn't want to have like technically buyer's remorse or, kind of remorse the whole thing. Of course, on the last day, we decided to, go up to customer service. We got our placeholder so we can get our next cruise going and then really enjoy that next trip. So we don't know when it's going to be. We got a few things we got to settle first in the meantime, but we got to at least have that out, like kind of like in the back pocket so we can use for later.
Yeah, you should always do that. I mean, this is travel agent, Jimmy, but it's just like common sense, because if you decide not to go, $250 back anytime you want it. There's no risk. And here's the best part: if you don't use it within 2 years and you totally forget about it, say you just totally forget you did it, that $250 will go right back on your card anyway after exactly 2 years. Like if you don't use it, boom, they just refund it anyway. So even if you totally forget you put the $250 down, don't use it, you get it back. So you really cannot lose. And 10% is 10% off that cruise anyway. So, but we got to wrap up. But I mean, I love hearing, what a trip, because again, like I say, when you're in this situation, take the trip, because when the kids get older, they get so busy, they're gone, they're going off to university, college, and this life gets really hectic. And, you're still going to get to take trips, but maybe not with the whole family all the time. What advice would you give folks? Like, what did you learn maybe in being a first-time cruiser with Disney Cruise Line, surprising the family? Like, what advice would you give to anybody who's maybe wanting to pull off something like this? I mean, it's dangerous, but it sounds like successful for you, but give some tips.
Yeah, I mean, certainly dangerous. I was definitely, realizing what was going on as far as when I'm making this kind of commitment to, for money, knowing that I'm not getting full permission to do it. But honestly, you just know, you obviously, the best thing I can say is obviously you're going to know your partner, and eventually you know that this is done with good intentions and it's not you're wasting money on something frivolous or something like that, but you're doing it with good intentions. And just go in it with like kind of open, like an open mind where you don't make sure you don't want to tell yourself you're going to do everything and I'm going to see everything and I'm going to go explore every inch of the ship, because you're never going to get there. You're never going to have that opportunity. And just, I think that the juxtaposition of doing the Disney World vacations versus Disney cruise vacations it really forced me and made me slow down, which is something that I'm not good at doing, and really unwinding and really disconnecting and just getting off the phone and leaving the phone in the room and disconnecting and just sitting on the beach or doing, whatever. We're just sitting on the veranda, watching the sunset, being on the front of the ship, with the wind in your hair and the whole 9 yards, every, corny, image I can throw out there at this point, but it really does force you to slow down. And I think that's the thing that you need to take away from this. Like, it's going to be an incredible vacation. Yes, it's Disney themed. Yes, you're going to have all the Disney nods and you're going to have all that entertainment, but it's really the opportunity where you can absolutely officially disconnect. And if you want to disconnect from the world and just spend time with the family, this is the perfect vehicle to do it.
And even for families that have, say high school kids right now, that they're not going off to college right yet, but you're still under one roof. But the thing is, when you're at home, even though you're all together, you just don't have that kind of time like you have on a cruise ship. Everybody, somebody's going off to cheerleading, somebody's going off to soccer practice, somebody's going off to youth groups, and everybody's going every which way and everybody's being pulled in 7 different directions, where when you are on a cruise ship, all you have is family time. All you have is going to trivias together and eating ice cream and sitting at the pool deck and swapping stories and making memories and running a 5K together, talking about how hot it was, or, getting shot out the Pelican Plunge tube, like saying, what are you doing? Trying to kill me? Like,
I mean, that's the way to do it. And that's really what we caught away from it. Is like, we really enjoyed our time together, and we knew this was going to be a special trip, and we knew it potentially was going to be an emotional trip, because, we got back and, literally about 2 weeks later, my daughter was off to university, or driving her down to university. And, that trip home was a difficult trip.
I remember dropping Paige off, and we've been to Mizzou because we're season ticket holders. It's a 2-hour commute from our house to Mizzou. We drive there for all the football games for 15 years. We took her to all the games. We dropped her off her freshman year. I'm not lying. Her Mom and I cried the entire 2-hour drive back. The entire time we cried. I mean, and I'm like, what is going on? She's 2 hours down the road, and we've made this drive 100 times. But it hurts. It's so bad. It's because your life changes. But I didn't like until we said goodbye. It didn't hit me.
Yeah, it was unexpected for me. I knew where I was going to have some moments, and I was doing fine up until we got to the border. And when we hit the border, I asked my wife to hand me the passports, and she handed me 2 passports as opposed to 3 passports. And it just hit me right there. I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah, just parenting's the best thing ever. I mean, kids are the best thing ever, but and they got punched.
Agreed.
Now I keep up with Paige. I see her on ESPN Plus. I'm like, when does she play? Oh, she plays Friday, Saturday. Okay, we got games. We get to watch her on TV. And then she's coming over Christmas. I bought her a plane ticket. I'm like, you are coming over for Christmas. Book your plane ticket. I'll send you the money on Zelle so we get to see you. That's how you get to see your kid now. No, well, Frank, it's such a great, touching trip report. We love that we get to do these on Mondays, and I'm just glad to get to meet friends like you through the podcast. So thanks for taking the time, and hope we get to cross paths in the park someday. That'd be wonderful.
Thank you, Mike. I really appreciate it. I've been listening to you guys for so long that it's like a little bit of a fanboy moment for me to be able to, kind of chat with you and just kind of share some stories. And even in the pre-show, we were just talking about sports and hockey, and I felt like I could just, spend another hour or two just talking hockey with you and just really enjoy what you bring to the community and everything you guys do in your podcast. And it makes it easy to listen and makes it easy to disconnect for an hour or two, whatever you guys, however long your podcasts are at this point. And I just really enjoy being able to kind of share this story. Like I geek out on this kind of stuff, and kind of like you guys enjoy talking about Disney.
Well, I appreciate it. I know that you work out there. You're one of our first responders. So you stay safe out there. Tell your colleagues to stay safe, and that you guys are very, very appreciated.
Much appreciated. I will certainly do that.
All right. Don't forget, today's show brought to you by the Magic for Less Travel. We'd love to help you get to your favorite Disney destination. No additional cost to you. You know all the details. Just stop by the website this week over at themagicforless.com. Please also use our Amazon affiliate link. It's one of the big days today to do that, Cyber Monday. Just click through beourguestpodcast.com/Amazon. That would help us out a whole lot. And you can join us on Patreon. It's $5 a month, and that keeps us on the air. It helps pay for all this stuff that we need to keep the show going. And when you do that, you get a bonus show called Mike in the Midwest every week. Coming over, we'd love to have you at patreon.com/beourguestpodcast. You can follow me on the social media. I'm on Instagram at beourguestmike, also x.com and Threads. But where I need you to join actually, because we're dropping below like a little threshold, which we need to kind of bump that up, is on Facebook. If you go over to our Facebook page at Be Our Guest Podcast and just hit like, that would be awesome this week. So go to Be Our Guest Podcast and just like us on Facebook, our page there. That would be awesome if you could do that. Thank you for doing that. And let's see what else. We have a live show Sunday night. No, wait, this week we will not have a live show on Sunday night because, well, we may have a live show. I'm trying to consider. Yes, I will be back. We will have a live show. I'm trying to think. Will I be back from the cruise? Yes, I will be back from the Destiny, as long as everything goes well. Knock on wood. Oh my gosh, Midwest winters. But I should be back, and we should have a live call-in show Sunday night. So plan on it. We'll say we are, and that'll be at 7:00 Eastern, 6:00 Central. All the places: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. And join us in the clubhouse. That's always going. And your invitation's out there at beourguestpodcast.com/clubhouse. That's our Discord server. It's free and fun for everyone. All right. I don't know what day it is. We're going to figure this out, but I will be back. I'll be on the Destiny next week, and just getting ready for that. So lots going on around here in the podcast studios. Pre-trips, always crazy around these parts, but we'll make it. We'll make it happen. All right. So Frank up in Canada, Mike here in Missouri. You guys have a great week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you real soon. Let me think. So this is going to come out on, look at the calendar. No, I will be. No, wait. No, that'll be hang on. What is today? So it'll be December 1st. No, so I won't be back. So no, I would see. I should have stuck with it. I will not be there. There will not be a show because that'll be the day we get on the ship. Dang, I'm an idiot. See, I'm done. Well, who cares? Well, that's the day.
Happens to the best of us.
Yeah, no, that's what happens. I can't think on the fly. I knew it was wrong when I was saying it. I was like, dang it, is it the week after? Oh, well, who cares?
It didn't sound right, but I was going to let you run with it.
Yeah, well, that sounds like my wife. Well, Frank, I appreciate you, bud. And thanks for taking the time. And if you need anything, you just give me a yell. I'm going to edit this and put it up ready to go for Monday.
Fantastic. I really appreciate the time you took to kind of chat with me and that kind of stuff. And like I said, I've been following you guys for a long time, and I've always been kind of like, hesitant to call in or do anything like that. So figures like, well, if I'm going to do this, I might as well go do it. And there's like a couple months ago, you said, I could fit you in on the week of Thanksgiving. And I said, all right, well, that's my my camp back out date. So I said, all right, I'm going to do this one way or another.
Next time, hey, let me know. We'll do it again, and call us on a Sunday too. Sometime. It'd be great to talk to you.
Absolutely, I certainly will. I appreciate the time, Mike.
All right, you take care. Talk to you soon.
You too. Have a good one.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, now see you guys Sunday night. See ya.